Kevin Smith built his reputation as the king of indie cinema and stoner comedies. With his groundbreaking debut film Clerks, which we covered on a previous WTF episode that the man himself even tweeted about, Smith became a hero to so many still grinding away to make it in the film industry. Wanting to try something new, Smith would be inspired by something he saw in a friend's documentary film that he felt represented the true personification of evil. So he set out to write what would be a full 180 from anything he had done before. A straight up horror film. It's time we ask that ever important question, what the f happened to Kevin Smith's Red State? In the year 2006, Smith saw an early cut of his close friend Malcolm Ingram's documentary film Small Town Gay Bar, about a community in the South that has to deal with extreme homophobia. In the film, Ingram was able to secure an interview with the infamous head of the Westboro Baptist Church, Fred Phelps. Smith said that he was super intrigued by this man that looked like your sweet grandfather or your favorite uncle who spoke with that all shucks southern drawl, yet the content of what he was saying was filled with such hate that it reminded him of a person like Adolf Hitler. At the time, Smith was in a bit of a career transition, having just finished up his famed View Askewniverse with what was, at the time, its final entry, Clerks 2. He knew he wanted to venture out into new territory, but wasn't quite sure yet what that would be. Smith said that he always knew he had a darker film in him, being inspired by the Coen brothers and Quentin Tarantino with how they could make you laugh hysterically 1 second before shooting a guy in the face in the next. So Smith decided to write two vastly different scripts simultaneously. The first would be more of what he was known for, R-rated humor, with Zack and Miri make a porno, while the other would be a dark departure focusing on a family of religious nuts, Red State. Smith was already a fan of Michael Parks when he sat down to write the script for Red State, having been impressed with his performance in the film From Dusk Till Dawn. So when he created the head of his fake church, Abin Cooper, a name in true Kevin Smith fashion derived from the Green Lantern character Abin Sur, he wrote it with Parks already in mind. Smith later said that had Michael Parks passed, he would have scrapped the film entirely. Smith said that while writing Red State, he thought about the post 9/11 world and how we were all looking for the enemy outside, while sometimes ignoring the ones from inside, which is how he saw people like Fred Phelps and his hate-filled church. Once the scripts were finished, Smith took them to the men who had financed his entire career, Bob and Harvey Weinstein. He pitched them both scripts he had written, yet the Weinsteins only bought one of the two, Zack and Miri Make a Porno, saying that they liked Red State but couldn't figure out how to market such a film. Taking some time off from Red State to make Zack and Miri for the Weinstein Company, followed by taking on his first ever studio film with the Warner Brothers comedy Cop Out, Smith began to get a bit disillusioned with the filmmaking process. He was noticing that other filmmakers who had made similar films to his were having bigger success at the box office. After the box office failure of Zack and Miri, Smith said that he fell into a bit of a depression, fearing he had ruined Seth Rogen's career. Things only got worse for Smith when on February 13th, 2010, less than 2 weeks before his film Cop Out was set to open, Smith was very publicly thrown off a Southwest Airlines flight for being, in his words, too fat to fly. Smith said the media circus that erupted after this incident, where he felt no one was on his side, stripped him of some of his humanity. However, in return, it gave him the fearlessness he had been searching for to finally bring on the next phase of his career. This meant taking more risks with the films he was making, including finally getting his, in his own words, quote, nasty-ass horror film with few redeeming characters off the ground. Smith says that trying to find money for the film was incredibly difficult, but kept thinking that nothing worthwhile is ever easy, and because of that, he must be doing something worthwhile. At first, he thought about going the GoFundMe route and getting money from his fans to pay for the film, but ultimately it was two private donors, one based in New York and the other in Canada, that came through with $4 million for the budget. With the budget secure, Smith had to set up the production company the film would use. For this, he decided to actually pay respect to the man who made his entire career possible, Harvey Weinstein, by calling the production company the Harvey Boys, something in hindsight I'm sure Smith regrets. Once financing was secured, it was now time to cast the film. Luckily, Kevin Smith had built up a reputation as a filmmaker people wanted to work with, and because of that, the cast was quick to assemble, even though they all had to take pay cuts to be in the film due to the limited budget. This included the man for which there would be no movie without, Michael Parks, along with Breaking Bad's Anna Gunn and Matt L. Jones, the recently crowned Best Supporting Actress Academy Award winner Melissa Leo, and John Goodman as ATF agent Joe Keenan, who, after being asked by Smith why he accepted the role, told him that he never got offered parts or dialogue like this. He's always playing the best friend or comic relief, so he loved the opportunity to play against type at a severe discount. The remainder of the cast was filled out with Office Space's Stephen Root, A Few Good Men's Kevin Pollak, Veronica Mars' Kyle Gallner, Lord of Dogtown's Michael Angarano, and a pre-Succession Nicholas Braun. Filming began in late summer 2010, just outside of Los Angeles, and lasted a relatively short 25 days. Shooting the film in sequential order, some of the shots took their toll on the cast, including Kyle Gallner, who had a full-blown panic attack while being tied to the cross. However, the crew didn't realize this at first, thinking Gallner was just acting. Nicholas Braun would also suffer a concussion when the force of a squib knocked him back and a box fell on his head. Smith took Braun to the hospital, where the nurses and doctors immediately went into a panic, as Braun was still decked out with a special effect gunshot wound to the head. With a limited budget, Smith said he had to alter a lot of stuff from the original script, but also mentioned that necessity is the mother of invention. He says the scene with the guy tied to the cross, the script called for a severed ram's head to be placed on top of the man. However, the special effects department told him if he wanted the ram's head, it would cost them $5,000, which was the entire SFX budget, meaning there would be no money left for any bullets or blood. Smith scrapped the idea and came up with wrapping the man in plastic wrap and shooting downward. He thought that would look cool on film, as the plastic wrap filled with blood and would help make a quick cleanup between takes. However, one thing that was scrapped due to the budget was Smith's original vision for the ending. In the film, Cooper is ranting and raving about a loud horn heard in the distance. The film cuts to Goodman's ATF agent explaining what happened to a couple of suits. In Smith's original ending, Cooper's ranting and raving in Goodman's face before his head and chest spontaneously explode. Then, one by one, the other members of the church, as well as the ATF agents' heads and chests begin spontaneously exploding to rapturous noise. Goodman would drop to the ground, covering his ears and closing his eyes as we continue to hear the exploding body parts. When the sound stops, Goodman stands up and sees a massive angel with a sword, revealing that the spontaneous heads exploding was actually the angel killing everyone. When the angel looks over at Goodman, it tells him to shh, before descending back to heaven. And then we see the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse riding down from the skies, before we cut to black. Roll credits. Smith says that ending would have cost them upwards of $15 million to actually shoot. Smith not only writes the film he directs, but also edits them, calling it, quote, the final rewrite. He often does this while they're filming so he can see the film start to come together as they shoot. Because of this tireless work ethic, Smith was able to show the entire cast and crew a rough cut of the film just 2 days after the production wrapped. Smith would even reach out to his fans to submit their own music for use in the film, ultimately using one fan-made submission. Even as the film itself would draw much controversy, it was Smith himself who courted the most headlines when he set up what would become one of the most infamous Sundance screenings of all time. For starters, members of the Westboro Baptist Church announced they would protest the Park City screening, so Smith encourages fans to show up for an anti-protest. At the premiere, Smith, along with his buddy Malcolm Ingram and his fans, far outnumbered the handful of Westboro Church members that actually showed up. They taunted the members with clever signs, as well as a full rendition of Katy Perry's hit song I Kissed a Girl. But as much controversy was outside of the famed Eccles Theater, it would pale in comparison to what would happen inside. Smith had taken Red State to Sundance with the promise that he would, quote, sell the film in the room. After the polarizing film ended, Smith and producer Jonathan Gordon took the stage to begin the auction. Smith was holding onto a hockey stick that he explained to the crowd was Wayne Gretzky's last stick he used as an Edmonton Oiler before he went to the Los Angeles Kings. He explained that he and Gretzky's father had formed a friendship over the years, and the elder Gretzky told Smith about a piece of advice he had given his son when he was a child. Don't go where the puck's been, go where it's going to be. What the men and women in the room that day didn't understand was that he was telling them exactly what he was about to do. When the auction began and representatives of the studios were ready to write checks and purchase the film, producer John Gordon started the bidding, to which Smith reportedly bid $20 and Gordon yelled, "Sold!" The room was baffled and a little enraged. Smith would then explain that he was taking the movie on a roadshow, where he would sell tickets directly to the fans. He explained that making films like Zack and Miri and Cop Out taught him a lot about how films were marketed, that a movie made for $4 million would have nearly $20 million spent on it for advertising, and would then have to pull in over $50 million just to turn any sort of profit. Smith spent nearly half an hour basically telling a room full of studio business people that their job was killing the film industry. Not exactly the best audience for such a diatribe. After the premiere, Smith and his post-screening antics were the talk of the festival. Many articles were written saying that they had just witnessed the self-righteous implosion of Kevin Smith, and that he had burnt nearly every bridge he had built since he changed the game with Clerks. Smith said he had planned that speech for over a month and knew it would go over like a lead balloon, but that he wasn't speaking to the marketing and business people in the room, but for the people who would watch the clips online and be inspired to make their own film without being deterred by the big studio system. He was looking at where the puck was going, not where it had been. Smith would kick off his Red State USA Roadshow in style at Radio City Music Hall on March 5, 2011, and would continue until the film ultimately saw its theatrical release on October 19th of that year, 17 years to the day after Clerks made its theatrical debut. The film would garner better than average reviews from critics who appreciated the swing Smith took in taking on material that he's not normally known for, while others felt the film didn't go far enough and felt unfinished. Some called it an exciting B-movie, while others would say it is yet another film made by Smith that would only appeal to his core fanbase, to which Smith replied, "What's wrong with that?" Even Quentin Tarantino would name Red State one of his favorite films of the year. The Sitges Film Festival, which is a Spanish film festival specializing in fantasy and horror, would award Red State with its Best Motion Picture Award, as well as honoring Michael Parks with Best Actor. True to Smith's prediction at Sundance, the film was ultimately able to turn a profit, recouping its $4 million budget via the multi-city roadshow, foreign sales, and video-on-demand distribution. Red State represented a turning point in Smith's career, no longer scared to tackle taboo subjects. It would represent the first of what would in retrospect be called his True North trilogy, along the even more gonzo film Tusk, and the as yet unmade Moose Jaws, which is exactly what it sounds like. Jaws, but with a moose. But the film's true genius lies in how prescient it really was. The film was inspired by the true-life antics of the Westboro Baptist Church, along with the tragedy in Waco, Texas in 1993, yet as the years have gone on, religious fanaticals and neo-Nazis have become more commonplace, spewing their hate unashamedly in public and social media. What was once seen as a small faction of our population has grown emboldened with their actions being normalized. And perhaps not the analogy he meant it to be, when Kevin Smith made Red State, sadly, he knew exactly where the puck was going. And that is what the happened to Kevin Smith's Red State.